So Lloyd went high, he picked this up from Melanie Young in 1999, took it round to various universities, he was able to get one guy at one university to actually measure the cranial capacity. So this was a hole, and he filled it up with birdseed, and then he tipped all that birdseed out into a jug. 1600 cc's of brain in there, compared to the human, which is typically 1200 cc's of brain. So how's that? You've got 400 cc's more brain in something which is actually looks smaller. How's that? Lloyd then wanted to get DNA tests done. In fact, he did get a DNA test done in 1999, and that came out. It was done at the Bold Lab in British Columbia. Forget the exact University of British Columbia, I think it was. Bold Lab there. They just used normal forensic, police forensic DNA testing, but this needed special treatment because it's 900 years old. They did a carbon date test on it, and it was 900 years old, plus or minus 40 years.
Wow.
And that's been done twice, same result. So they needed special DNA handling techniques to do an appropriate DNA test, really, on this. And they didn't use that at the Bold Lab. They just treated it like a normal sample, and they didn't really recover much DNA. They only recovered, I think, 200 picograms. And normally, to get a reliable reading, they need to recover 1,000 picograms, according to what Lloyd told me. Yeah. So they declared this result, but it wasn't really reliable, and they said it's simply a human male child. And when that result was posted by them, Lloyd Pye was kind of finished at that point, because so DNA says it's human, forget about it, just go away, go back to what you do, it's an ordinary human skull. But he knew, based on what we've already discussed about the physical anomalies, couldn't be human. Couldn't be human. So he waited, and then in 2003 a lady called Belinda Mackenzie came forward, and she offered to pay for some newer DNA tests, because the technology for doing DNA testing has been developing all the time, over the last 30, 40 years. And she offered to pay for some more sophisticated tests which would handle the ancient DNA, and that was done in 2003 by a company which was later bought out. A company called Trace Genetics, or was called Trace Genetics, now got merged into another company. And they did some very careful tests. It was they that found that the bone wouldn't dissolve when they put it in the thing to dissolve the bone. Didn't dissolve, whereas the human bone did. So that again showed that it wasn't the same. And they basically came out after a test and found that the mitochondrial DNA, which was passed down from the mother's line. In your cells, you've got two different types of DNA. You've got mitochondrial DNA and you've got nuclear DNA. They tested both the mitochondrial and the nuclear DNA. They were able to recover the nuclear and mitochondrial DNA from the human skull. They got that to come up straight away. So there's no problem. So the DNA hadn't degraded. It was in a dry cave. It was fairly stable temperature-wise, not so bad that it completely destroyed everything. And they were able to cover nuclear DNA from the human skull. So that meant that in theory it should be in the Starchild skull as well, because it's right next to it, so it shouldn't have degraded anymore. They couldn't recover any nuclear DNA. They did recover mitochondrial, so at that point they thought, no nuclear, that means its father's not human. But the nuclear DNA, the mitochondrial DNA is recoverable, therefore it's a human mother. So between 2003, from 2003 onwards, Lloyd was going around doing talks saying we think it might be an alien hybrid, because we've got a human mother, because it's got human mitochondrial DNA, and we've got a non-human father potentially. But then this guy came forward in 2010, and Lloyd told me a little bit about him, but he's remained anonymous. And he got the permission of his company to actually work on the Starchild DNA, as a sort of backroom project. They didn't want their name associated with it, so we don't know who the company was, but we do know that they do genetic research, and he got their approval to do the tests, on his own time, use the lab and stuff. And he continued to recover the nuclear DNA over about 2 to 3 years, and so he found that the nuclear DNA was recoverable with these newer techniques that he had, which is called shotgunning. And he kept recovering more of the gene sequence. I think they ended up recovering about 40,000 base pairs, which is, to put that in context, that's far less than 1% of the whole DNA of the being, because you've got about 3 billion base pairs. So 40,000 over 3 billion is the proportion they recovered. But nevertheless, that's still a high enough proportion to get an idea of how similar this DNA is to the human DNA, because the human genome, of course, has been mapped out and recovered over the last sort of, I don't know, 20 odd years or whatever. So they're able to take portions of the DNA recovered, put them into a database after they've done these chemical tests, and then look at them and compare them to human. And I think basically what the end result of all that was, after several years of bitting and bobbing with that, is that this DNA of this is less than 60% similar to humans.
Right.
And to put that in perspective, chimpanzees have 98% the same DNA as humans. And they're very different to us.
Is a mouse 70%?
Something like that, yeah, I forget the exact figures. People can look up the figures, but Lloyd's put them in his talk. And there's a talk given by Lloyd Pye in 2012, which I recorded, and I edited together. I've been giving out DVDs of that. That's on YouTube. I suggest people watch that to get all the details. He goes through all of this. And they even recovered a specific gene. It's called the FOXP2 gene. I'll mention this again in a couple of minutes when we get to the debunker. And that's a special type of gene. And everyone on the planet, well, every human on the planet, has the same FOXP2 gene. It's identical, except there can be two variations. But if you have any variations, it results in a disability, either a loss of speech or a loss of something else. So everyone that's got normal speech and whatnot has exactly the same FOXP2 gene. They recovered the Starchild's FOXP2 gene, and it had, I think, 56 differences to the human one. I think was it 2,000 base pairs, I think 2,700 base pairs. But the Starchild's had 56 differences to the human. So that right there proves that this isn't human. It's not even close. So all the evidence that you stack all of that up that I've gone over in the last 2-3 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, this is not human. This is not from around here. Or maybe it is from around here, but it lived underground secretly and no one's ever discovered it. Something like that. It could have lived on the Earth and it's just never been discovered. But it's not part of our evolutionary path. It's not human.